Hi, it's Rachel from the Twinkl Home Ed team. We've got our 8th 10 minutes with Twinkl. We've got Sarah coming over soon, and we're going to be asking her questions all about her home ed journey, and it's just going to be exactly 10 minutes. So you've got time now to grab a custard cream, whatever it might be, sit down and get ready to listen. We're hoping to do lots of these. I have a secret wish of doing 100 of them by September. So I'm on my 8th now, so let's see how it goes. I'm going to invite Sarah along, and then we can get started.
Hi.
Hi, that was quick.
Yeah, sorry, I've been waiting. I've had to bribe the kids to keep them quiet, so I'm on borrowed time.
Yeah, it's nice to have you. We've got 10 minutes on the timer. Before we start though, I just want to say, you don't know this, but when I was first trying to kind of find British home educators back right at the beginning of my home education journey, and I didn't have a clue about what the scene was like in Britain. The first video I watched of a British home educator was one of your videos talking about math no problem.
Ah, yeah. Well, I don't do many videos at all, so you've done well to find that.
It was nothing out for everything was American homeschoolers, and I was just like, oh, it's someone with a British accent and talking about resources you can actually get in England, and I found it really reassuring. So that was quite a long time ago, but you've been on social media for a while and home ed a while, so I'm looking forward to hearing what you've got to say. We've got 10 minutes. It's going to start now. So first of all, who are you, where are you from, and who do you home educate?
Okay, so I'm Sarah. You might be able to tell from my accent I'm from Manchester. I'm in Stockport, which is sort of southeast Manchester. I'm very proud of being a northern girl and being Manchester based. We home ed 3 of our children, all 3 of them. We have Daniel, who is 9, so he'd be year 4. We have Emma, who is 8, she's year 3, and we have Harry, who is year 1, but quite a young year 1. He's a June baby, and so I sort of really treat him more like a reception age child.
Yeah. Have you home ed from the start, or did they go to school?
Yeah, no, I've home ed from the start. They've never been in nurseries and childminders. They've always been home ed. It was always sort of the intention.
Yeah. So give us kind of 3 words to describe your home ed world.
Okay, so I've been thinking about this a lot today. And I think probably the main word is that it's quite eclectic. So if I think about just what we've done today, we've had music practice, we've had a Sri Lanka project, we've made a Sri Lankan butter cake, we've had football games, we've done maths, reading practice. My older 2 will go off to their music lessons shortly. There's all sorts of things. No day is ever the same. But that said, I would also say that we're semi-structured. So we do, I don't just leave the kids to do things. We do have I follow a maths program, as you've mentioned. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of project-based work, so there is a structure to our day. And then I'd probably say it's quite almost all-consuming. So home ed seems to really take over your life, and even at night time when I'm trying to do stuff for me, I'm still thinking, what is it I could do differently? What could we do next? How can we sort of build new things into what we're doing? So yeah, eclectic, semi-structured, and all-consuming.
Yeah, that sounds similar to me. And the all-consuming thing, I think after a while it gets hard to say what is home ed and what is life, because it all just merges into one. And when people ask questions like, how do you home ed, and I don't know how to condense it into sentences when it's just everything we're doing.
It just sort of happens. And another thing we've done today is we have a board game project fair on Friday, so we've been doing board games. They've been making board games and testing out the board games. But then from that, they've then gone on to playing different board games. So whilst that's not formal learning, there is still some learning about how different games have come to be and how we can adapt those games in our own games. And then obviously that'll just continue on into the weekend. So it is just it totally takes over every aspect of your life, really.
It does, yeah. I was going to ask actually, because I know you're involved in kind of fairs, like the board game fair. Could you just tell us a little bit about that and kind of your home ed community there in Manchester?
So Manchester, obviously a big city, and where I am in my particular part of Stockport, there's loads of us. Within walking distance of my house, we have, it must be 4 or 5 families that home educate. So we're quite lucky in that respect. And not only do they home educate, our children are all quite similar ages in the same years. So we've got like a really, really tight-knit community. I've got friends that live sort of in the northern part of the city that I've known since before my youngest was born who home educate. So we've got sort of really long-lasting relationships there. And we're lucky that we've got quite reasonably priced venues that we can hire. So we do project fairs, and I try to organise roughly one every half term. So we've done history, geography, science fairs. We've done. We've got the board game fair coming up. We've got a nature fair, and we've got a literature fair. And it's basically £2.50 per family, and you do a project that is however you want to link it to that theme. You can link it. So for history, my children did ancient Egypt. Another family did evacuees to their particular Lancashire village. Another family did their grandparents' war medals. Somebody else did their own family tree, which was really interesting. So it's whatever tenuous link you can make to the overarching thing, you bring it, and if the children want to, they can present it to the rest of the group. And what's really interesting is often the children are quite nervous to present. It's quite a big thing to stand up in front of your peers and everybody else. And usually all of them will take part after they've seen the more confident ones present. And they realise that actually it's quite a nice thing to do, and it's not actually as scary as it seems. Most of the children will present. So they're really good fun. So we have the board game fair on Friday. So my children have been busy with various things, making various board games. So
I love that idea. I definitely want to think about. I always want to start new groups. So that sounds like a really nice one to do as well, because it's like you're doing things at home that connect with it, and then learning from each other. That sounds really cool. So I was going to ask kind of a highlight and I don't want to say horror, but it starts with the same letter, but like a good and a hard thing about home ed, either something specific that's happened or just kind of general things that you find brilliant about home ed or that you find a little bit of a struggle.
Okay. I think the highlights are definitely when your kids just get something. So my youngest, for those that know me, will know that my youngest has had some quite significant speech problems. And it's been incredibly frustrating trying to fight for the support that he's needed for that. And being home ed, in Manchester, I don't know how it works across other counties, but in my part of Manchester, it's all run through the school once they get to school age. But because he's a June baby, he's not actually compulsory school age. He's only just turned compulsory school age, September just gone, but would be in year one. So, and all these things happened during the lockdown. So trying to get any access was really, really difficult. So I did an awful lot of work with him with speech therapists on Zoom, which was just hideous. It's horrible doing speech therapy on Zoom. But sort of he now does Spanish classes with a native Spanish speaker. And so I signed him up to this, and I was like, if she's struggling to understand him, let me know. And I spoke to the teacher after a session, and she hadn't realised he was the child with the speech problem. So for me, it was sort of that, I've done something right. And from that, he's now at the point where his reading's really coming on. And so, it's sort of those little things where it just feels impossible, but you suddenly get that outside validation that you've done something right. And then things that are difficult. This week is hideous for me. I'm almost... As one of my friends who might watch this back later, I was jokingly said yesterday I was looking at boarding schools because I was just having a hideous time because, like I said earlier, it is just so all-consuming. And, I get tired, the kids get tired. We've had a proper half term the last 2 weeks because my husband was on leave. We've got other stuff going on in our family with care home situations, my father-in-law, so there's just a lot going on. And it's just a hard week, and you just have to say, do you know what, we're going to stop, we're going to reset, we're going to take a deep breath and pick it back up and just trust that it does all come back together eventually. But I think
go on.
You have to accept that there's those really good days when everything seems to go really well and you think you've done loads, and then there's times like for me this week where everybody's bickering, everybody's arguing, everything just seems really difficult, but trust that it all comes back together at some point.
I love that word, trust, because you've been home ed about 4 or 5 years now?
Yeah, so my eldest year 4, so 5 years. And into the 5th
so you've got that hindsight to look back and say, actually, I don't have to panic. One bad week. I like that. Do you have any other advice for anyone starting out new or who's feeling a little bit of the boarding school desire?
I do say that in jest. I'm not actually.
I know.
I do, just in case anybody reports me anywhere. But I think the biggest thing I can say is to find your tribe of people and find like-minded homeowners. I think I was watching back some of the interviews earlier in the week, and there was somebody who said, it was a lady who was quite structured, and I've forgotten her name now, her kids had additional needs, and she was saying that some people can be quite judgmental about that. And I think you just have to accept that people are going to do things differently, and you need to find the people that you can gel with and you might run things with and you might work alongside with. So for me, it's been really important to find people that my kids can have long-lasting friendships with. And we all do things slightly differently, but we've all kind of got the same intentions and we can do things collaboratively. So I used to run a lot of things at my house pre-lockdown when my husband was out at work, and we'd have, you know, artist themed days, and we did a British wildlife thing where we'd study different British wildlife, and I'd have a house full of kids, and all the parents were sort of on the same wavelength as how my kids learn. So I could do those collaborative activities, whereas if it was more unstructured children, they're not going to do the structured activities that I was setting up. So definitely find your tribe of people. Facebook is great. I have a love-hate relationship with Facebook, but it's great for finding your local groups and communicating what's on out there. And just, when my children were very small, I went to everything, literally everything. If there was a group on, I went to it to find out what worked for us. And it meant that after that first year, I knew what did work for us and what didn't, and I could then sort of focus in future years on the things that were working best for us. Yeah.
That's really good advice. Yeah, I just feel like in the last year or two is where I found people that I connect with, and in some ways we might be very, very different, but that kind of that intention, I think you're right. Like it's the foundation of like, this is what we want for our kids. Then then there's like that. It's just something that clicks, I think, that makes it feel like refreshing to spend time with people rather than some groups. I think when it feels tiring, it's maybe a sign that it's not quite the right place as well.
Yeah, I think it's that whole trusting your own instincts thing, because people are just going to approach things differently, and you know, we're all in different phases of life. So you know, I have children that are all in different phases, so the particular approach that we take works for us because I have to cater to 3 different needs. If you've only got one child, or your child has a very different learning style, then my approach probably doesn't work. So I think it's finding the people that you can gel with and taking bits of inspiration, and finding other parents that you can have a good moan to when you're having a bad week, and I know that they're not judging you too much over that.
Well, that's what I'm hoping, that these interviews become part of that kind of structure of being able to listen in to other people, having a moan and knowing it's okay, and celebrating all the amazing things as well. So thank you so much for joining us. That was really interesting. I might pick your brain a little bit more about running these different groups.
Please do.
Tell me to stop organising.
Okay, well, see you soon. You've gone silent on me, so if you're asking me questions, I can't hear you.
Yeah, sorry, it was something kind of technical happened there. But so you are at Miss S Burns, is that right?
Yeah, that's my username.
I know that you'll be fine with people heading over there to see what you're up to and ask you more questions.
Yeah.
Thank you again for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
Bye.